I am the second of my mother's 3 children. Her youngest child died of cancer 9 years ago at the age of 26. Her oldest is one of just a few people in the United States who lives without any kidneys. And he's done so agonizingly but gracefully for the past 3 years. In 1985, my big brother fulfilled his childhood dreams of becoming a sailor in the United States Navy. Having never met his biological father, my mother was the sole provider who stuffed her son's pockets with well wishes before chasing the military vehicle down and around the windy Baltimore street we called home. 9 years later, 11 sooner than we'd hoped, the Navy shipped him back to my mother with a boisterous, life-threatening ailment that had been passed down to him through his estranged father's bloodline. He had polycystic kidney disease, which is a hereditary disorder that causes the kidneys to cluster with cysts. The kidneys engorge, threaten to rupture, and then ultimately fail. One spring, my brother phoned my mother and me from a hospital emergency room. Lacking pretension, he explained that he would require a transplant if he were to survive until Christmas. Without pause, I said, "I'll do it." He thought I was being cute. I was serious. I had to do it because I feared the nebulous sanctity of my mother's home would ensconce her forever, the way it had begun to do when my baby brother died. If she were to bereave this child, she would implode upon herself, become bare bones, just a shell of the woman she used to be. And so, armed with the verve to do what felt right, I took a modest blood test to determine if I was a match. Within 2 weeks, I learned I was. And so I rushed to complete the bevy of tests required for one to donate an organ. I scheduled the surgery and then called my brother and told him to show up on July 31st. And he did. At 6:30 a.m. in sync and on cue, my brother and I were wheeled away from our fearful, tearful mother into separate operating rooms that had the potential of mending deep-seated wounds caused by naval ships gone too far, too long. Too few apologies for everything we never meant to say, and an overwhelming resentment of my weekend trips uptown to a father who cared for me deeply. Well, the surgeons removed both my brother's kidneys that morning. By the afternoon, they had transplanted one of mine into the cavernous depths of his torso that had been starving for a bean-shaped piece of life. In exchange for my generosity, I was treated to an upscale hospital room stacked with an abundance of junk food and more luxuries than I deserved for being the kind of human I always wanted as a sister. For the next 2 years, 2 grateful years, my brother traveled the country, walked upon the earth unapologetically, was employed like a man, nurtured his son like a man, and had regained the strength to smile in the way of a man who is truly living. And then, believing he was free from the Medusa-like constraints of dialysis machines that make knees too weak to carry him, he was blindsided by pneumonia. Unfortunately, the virus embedded itself into his solitary kidney, and he had to undergo surgery to have my gift removed. Guilt-ridden and begrudgingly, my mother's child sunk into an abysmal depression that still shrouds him like a stench that most of us pretends is an impolite inconvenience. It's been 5 years since I've had the surgery, and I remain a clean bill of health. Most days, I don't even think about missing a piece of my body the size of my fist any more than I think of hair and nails trimmed away. If I were a miracle maker, I would regrow my left kidney. I would allow myself to be torn apart by my mother's fateful, fearful tears once again. I would willingly be responsible for my brother's 28th hospital stay in just 5 short years, just to have that one part of me uprooted and resettled into the desolate spaces of his gut. My family says I'm more than a miracle maker. I'm a superhero, my auntie said. Well, I'm definitely no miracle maker, and truthfully, I'd never even felt like a superhero until I saw this on a recent trip to my hometown of Baltimore. It's at the University of Maryland Medical Center on the 8th floor. It's the Gift of Life Donor Wall of Honor, and it reads, "The names on this wall are Gift of Life members, people who through an act of selfless giving bestowed the ultimate gift to another, the gift of life. They generously gave of themselves to help improve the lives of others. UMMC is proud to honor these incredibly courageous individuals." Now, the fact that my name is on that wall at all is of very little significance to me. What is significant is that it's nestled there among hundreds of others, people who share my profound passion for living, my robust respect for life, and my compelling commitment to ensuring that others don't suffer needlessly. Did you all know that people who donate organs while they're still alive account for almost half of all U.S. transplant surgeries each year? Now, most people are connected as friends and family, but even anonymous pairings are on the rise. Consider this potent example of community unbound. In 2011, Rick was a 44-year-old man who had never so much as even donated blood prior to learning that the clerk at his yoga studio had recently donated an organ to an old friend. Feeling inspired, his heart unraveled unto the possibility of doing the same. Well, not knowing anyone who needed a kidney, Rick decided to donate to a stranger. His 66-year-old recipient had a niece who was willing but unable because she wasn't a match for him. She decided, since her uncle benefited from the gift of a stranger, the one that Rick gave without hesitation, that a stranger should benefit from her gift. Her anonymous donor also had a willing and potential donor, but that person was also not a match. And so they decided to donate to a stranger. This meticulously orchestrated concerto crescendoed for 4 months and included 60 surgeries in 17 hospitals across 11 states. Now, as the epitome of paying it forward, these superheroes were unbound by constrictions of race, class, gender, sexuality, and fear. Donors and recipients, strangers, become friends. Living donors defy narrow notions of family. They sustain us as a global community, and they restore a sense of humanity to us all. Well, as fate would have it, my brother's son recently learned that he has polycystic kidney disease too. At just 15 years old, his kidneys have already developed clusters of cysts that will erupt when he's in his 20s. His kidneys will likely fail somewhere around his 35th birthday. He will likely require a transplant just as he is settling into this American dream. And so the real tragedy here is not just that my brother can't save his own son's life because he has no kidneys to give him, but that so many other daughters and sons will suffer because there is too little inspiration being spread about the splendor of becoming a living donor.